Hello to everyone. This is Viewpoint on Noyan Tapan TV, and I am Benyamin Poghosyan. This time, we will discuss the summit of BRICS and BRICS Plus, which held several days ago, in the context of evolving global world order and the emergence of multipolar world. We all know that since the end of the Cold War, world entered into the unipolar system led by the United States. However, since 2008 financial crisis, this unipolar world started to decrease its influence. And more there were discussions that this unipolar world will be transformed into something else. Into something what? It was not clear. There were several definitions and several terms discussing what will world like after the end of unipolar moment. Several terms were used, like multipolar world, no polar world, chaos, and etc. However, since the start of the Russian special military operation in Ukraine, or war in Ukraine, the discussions about the future of the world order and about the main features of the future world order emerged again. And a lot of discussion now focused on the issue: will we face the new bipolar world when United States and China will fight each other, and each of them will have their allies and friends and partners, like European Union for United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Japan, South Korea, and China with friends and partners like Russia, several Asian countries, Iran, and etc. However, another option is that we will not have the bipolar world and will not come back to the classic Cold War era, simply changing the Soviet Union with China, with United States, but we will have multipolar world system. And in this context, the BRICS summit and the BRICS Plus summit, they were very interesting examples how world may come not to the new bipolar system, but to the multipolar system. So what all this about? First of all, what BRICS mean? BRICS is a group of 5 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, all developing countries. And together BRICS represent about 25-27% of global GDP. Of course, with a behemoth like China, with almost 15 or 16% of global GDP. The BRICS was established back in 2006, and starting from 2009, every year the leaders of the countries meet with each other. From the beginning, the establishment of the BRICS was perceived as a clear sign that the US-led unipolar world order is starting to wane off, and that multipolar world will at the end of the day come and put in the place of this unipolar world. However, during the early years of the BRICS, this was mostly about economics. There were less geopolitics. Then, after 2008 financial crisis, we have G20, with inclusion of G7, Russia, BRICS countries, and some other countries, including Turkey and the European Union. And this G20 also was perceived as features of this multipolar world. However, as the relations between China and the United States, and also as relations between Russia and the United States starting to deteriorate, especially after 2014, if we speak about Russia-US relations, and definitely after 2017, if we speak about the US-China relations, when President Donald Trump launched trade war against China, and when American establishment started to speak about more about great power competition and less about war on terror. This was a shift. We may say it's a generational shift, because since 2001, war on terror was the number one topic in US foreign and security policy. Starting from 2017, US National Security Strategy, which was published in December 2017, this idea of war on terror started to be transformed into idea on great power competition, when China and Russia were perceived as the main enemies or rivals of the United States. Definitely, the start of war in Ukraine and the complete rupture and collapse of the Russia-US and in general Russia-West relations accelerated these processes. The United States and the West in general seeks to isolate Russia. And in this context, the BRICS and then BRICS Plus summit which took place just a few days ago, there were very interesting examples of how the world outside the West is reacting to the current situation. If we look into the Western expert circles and the main media platforms, there's a clear definition that yes, Russia is isolated, entire world is fighting against Russia. However, if we look a little bit deeper, we see that it's only the West, namely United States, European Union, Canada, United Kingdom, and some of US Asian allies like Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand are united against Russia and are putting economic sanctions against Russia and are ready and are providing lethal weapons to Ukraine. The significant number of countries, more than 100, they are trying to be rather neutral. No one obviously supports Russia's war in Ukraine, but also very few are happy to share the Western sanctions against Russia. And in this context, the BRICS summit was a very significant show that the non-Western countries, they are not ready to unite themselves with United States in the fight against Russia. And if, for example, a Chinese example is clear, China has its own problems with United States, but even Brazil and India, who are strategic partners of the United States, and India coming closer to United States given its very complicated relations with China. But even India was participated in BRICS summit, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared the virtual podium with Russian President Vladimir Putin, while the Western countries try to isolate both Russia and Russian leader. And another interesting feature is the idea to establish BRICS Plus. For example, a few days ago, immediately after the BRICS summit, there was a virtual summit of BRICS Plus, like 5 countries of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, plus several other countries such as Indonesia, Argentina, Thailand, some countries from Africa. And the idea of BRICS Plus is to expand the BRICS and to create a real format, a real multilateral and multipolar format, which may come as a continuation of the unipolar world, which again was established, as I said, immediately after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. So both BRICS and the BRICS Plus summits, held just a few days ago, they are sending a clear signs to all of us that unipolar world is really going to be finished. Of course, it will be very difficult to assess now how long this process may take. Definitely, the transformation of world order is a very complicated process. It usually takes decades, and unfortunately, it goes in parallel with wars, conflicts, and etc. However, the BRICS and the BRICS Plus shows that even those countries who are in strategic partnership with United States, they don't share the idea that unipolar world should continue, but also they don't share the idea that unipolar world should be transformed into another bipolar polarity. And there should be only 2 main polars, US and China, and all other countries should choose the sides. Either they are with United States or they are with China. For example, countries like Brazil, and especially like India, they are interested in multipolar world system, and they don't want to be the junior partners neither of the United States nor with China. And these processes shows that the transformation of world order from unipolarity into most probably multipolarity has been accelerated. And the war in Ukraine is one of the signs that the process has been accelerated. Again, it's very difficult to assess concrete time frames. When officially the political scientists, experts, or politicians may declare the emergence and the final establishment of multipolar world order. But again, the recent developments show that most probably the unipolar world cannot be restored, even if some in United States think to restore it. And second, that most probably bipolar world will not follow from to the unipolar world. There will be no clear competition only between United States and China as 2 main polars. Most probably, the world will enter the multipolar system, and here we will see also another process which many experts call the regionalization of globalization. What does it mean? That we will see several poles, and each of pole which will have at least economic strong influence in its surrounding. It could be China with several Asian countries, it could be Russia with several post-Soviet space republics, it could be Brazil in Latin America and South Africa in the southern part of African continent. So we are really entering into the very interesting phase of the transformation of global world order, and we have to simply hope that this process will not take very long, and the bloody conflicts which are witnessing will be somehow solved, and the transformation of global world order from unipolar system into multipolar system will be relatively quiet and with less conflicts. This was all for today, and we will meet soon. Thank you, bye.